Hey guys, what's up? So, what is a really good comic book to get or graphic novel to get? They're the same thing basically at the comic book store. When you go into a comic book store, there's a ton of these little floppy comics all over the place. They're new, they come out every Wednesday, and they have new ones every Wednesday. And then on the other side, they've got these trade paperbacks which are thicker and there's whole series of them and stuff like that, and they're tried and true, and they've been liked by people for a long time, and they're like the bestseller of the comic book store. They're like the ones that people go to if they haven't read it yet. So I recommend reading those, and I'm gonna recommend a couple of these. So there's a lot of great stuff at the comic book store. There's also a lot of stuff which isn't that great. It's not that it's not great, it's just that not everyone's gonna like everything that other people like. Some people like one thing and some people will not like it, and other people like something different. So if you're looking for superhero comics, then that's like 80% of the comic book store is superhero comics. But I'm not into superhero comics. So I'm like, basically I read like the 20 to 30% of the graphic novels that are not superhero, because I just like different stories and stuff like that. So I'm gonna go into like a couple of really good series that I recommend that are amazing. And I'm gonna recommend this one probably the most out of anything you can buy, any comic or graphic novel. I'm gonna recommend John Constantine's Hellblazer. This has been going on since I don't even know how long ago. This has been going on from, I know from the 80s, but I don't know if they're from the 70s, But basically, this is awesome, cool stuff. John Constantine, Hellblazer, they basically, it's this guy, he's an occultist. He lives in the present day age, and he's in a world of where everything is magic. There's demons and there's summoning spirits, and there's like casting circles and spells and magic potions and magic items and all kinds of monsters. Great relationships in this. He tries to be like a good guy, but people don't like him. He's got a bad reputation and stuff like this. This has been going on seriously. This is a trade paperback of John Constantine's Hellblazer, and this is one of, I don't know even how many, like over 20 or even more, or 30 of these like trade paperbacks. And seriously, they're easy to read. You can read one of these in one night if you just sit down and read the whole thing. And they're really cool. The art is good. The art is pretty good. And it's just really cool. It's stories, it's people in there. There's all kinds of adventures that he goes on. It's a really cool story. I mean, the art is good, but the stories are just fantastic. This is one of the best things. If you are into comics or not into comics, or you've been into comics, or you want to read a really good comic, you don't know which one to read, try the John Constantine. Now the thing is, you could start at, this is I'm not sure, I know that this is an order. There's an order of these, and I don't know which one this is. You could start, I would recommend starting at the first one. They're all good. I bought all of the ones for a while, and they're all good. There aren't any of them that aren't good. And I started with the first one and tried to keep it in the series, but if you can't, it doesn't really matter. Once you get an idea of the character, and once you get an idea of the world that he's in and the stories and stuff like that, you're just going to be able to read it in the middle, or read it at any side. You really don't have to know a lot about the story, because it's just a bunch of little stories that they go on. For example, this story is about Rake at the Gates of Hell, is the name of the story. And as you can see, I'll just show you this. It shows you where it starts, and then it goes into, see, there's a lot of them. It tells you what the writer is, the artist, Garth Ennis, Steve Dillon. And here you go. Basically, they're separated into these chapters, and the chapters are basically a continuation of the story. So this one is all Rake at the Gates of Hell, the whole story. And it starts with like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, and all that. And this was actually its own comic book. And that's why you could see next to it, it says like originally presented in Hellblazer 78 and then 79. So if you wanted to read it with the floppy comics, you would know, like, if you wanted to read this story, you would start with number 78, go to 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, and then you've read the whole series of this story. So stories start and stories end, and different trade paperbacks. Some of them have the full story, and some of them have like multiple stories in it. So it's really, really cool. It's a lot like it's just like a very, very good. It's a lot of it's just like occult magical world, and he's this occultist, and he knows other magicians and sorcerers and other things, and it's all like present day. It's not like medieval fantasy with wizards and stuff like that. It's modern day occultists with all kinds of like cool occult magic things that are happening. This is an awesome series. If you start at the beginning, that's a good way to start, but just pick this up and read it. It's not hard to understand. It's just basically about this guy, and once you know his character and the kind of like adventures he gets himself into, you can just read that story just in the middle if you want it. It's really, really good. This is another one, and this is my other favorite trade paperback. I'm just showing my two favorites. And this is also, this one, I think there's 10 of these. There's 10 of these. And this is Neil Gaiman, who, he's a writer. He writes, British writer. He writes not only comic books, but he writes also novels and stuff like that. And this is the Sandman series. And this is really considered like one of the best series in comic books ever. And I've also heard it, be, talked about as the best comic book series ever. But I'm not going to say that, because I really don't think that, that any comic book is going to be the best, because they're just different. There's just no way you can compare Constantine's Hellblazer to this. It's a different story, and they're just all good stories, but the worlds are completely different, Maybe somebody might say this is better or the other thing's better, but it's completely different. It's just like one is Canada and one is New Zealand, and you can't compare the two because there's different things about each that are like really good. So this is awesome. And also like, really cool art. That's weird. Also cool art. A little bit like, this one has really better art than that one, but there's a lot of Constantine that has really good art. But this one has great art. I really think that this issue, what they did with this was just, they put so much good art in here. And the story's about the characters called the Endless. And the main character this is about is Dream. And you could see why it's called Sandman, because the main character is Dream. He's basically an endless, which he's an incarnation. He is Dream. He is the incarnation of dreams. He creates dreams. He gives dreams to people. And this is a book about him and other endless incarnations and other mythical, like all kinds of like cool characters like Dream or like Delirium or like a lot of these other, there's like a talking bird who's a person, and it's just really, really interesting. He rules the realm of dreams, and he goes through realms, and he's got his own area that he kind of like lives in and stuff like that. It's very, very creative. It's very original. It's very like interesting, and it's very like involved. I mean, Neil Gaiman created a whole world around this book and these characters. This is awesome. I will say about the thing about this series, when I first read the series, I read the first book, and I didn't really think it was that great. Now it's like one of my favorite series because I read the rest of it. But when I read the first book, I didn't think it was that great. And I put it down for a long time, and every time I was in the comic book store, I would always see this like Sandman, the greatest comic book ever written. And I was thinking, oh man, is it really? Like, I read the first one, I wasn't that into it. But then after I kept seeing it a lot, I think I just bought the second one. And people have told me, they said, no, this is a really, really good series. So I bought the second one, and then I got into it, and I read all the way up to the ninth one. Because I bought the ninth one, I read the eighth one, I bought the ninth one and the 10th one, and it was just goes up to 10. And I bought the ninth one and the 10th one, and I couldn't get through the ninth one because it got a little bit like he just like lost like this series is just such a long and involved series that I think at the end he just kind of lost like any kind of ideas. Like he wasn't able to make the last two novels to be really, really good and like original and stuff. They were just not original. They were just more of the same. They got boring, and then I just stopped reading it. I do want to pick it up again and try to read through it, but every time I try to read through it, I just get bored and I put it down because it's not, I just feel like it's not as good as the rest of the 8. So I do think that most of these are great, and yes, I also think it's one of the best comic books ever written. So you can't go wrong with that. A couple of like more things I want to recommend. This one's a lot of fun, and it's not like too serious, but this is called Y: The Last Man. I only bought the first one. I bought the second one, kinda. It's cool, but you know what it's about is that this guy, for some reason, him and his monkey, he's the last man on Earth for some reason, and no one knows why. But the Earth, the world is just full of like women, and there's no men, and he's the only man left, and he's got a monkey, and so like it just goes on this adventure, and like they don't know why there's no other men, whatever, and then he's got to like deal with like all these like women because like he's the last man. It's like they all want him and to possess him or whatever and to have him. So it's crazy, but it's just an interesting idea, and people liked it. So I'm gonna mention it that it was good. Also Preacher, which I didn't get into it because I just thought it was too violent, but a lot of people like that one. And I do want to say, like, you can't, like, this is also a great one. Heavy Metal Magazine, awesome stories, awesome art, awesome covers all the time. You can't go wrong with this one. Most of them are good. I would say if you're going to go into get a Heavy Metal Magazine, the current ones are good. The ones that are just coming out now are good. The ones that came out in 1970s, 80s, and 90s are good. And I would say like in the 2000s, they weren't that great. And the beginning, and until about 2015 or so-ish, 2015, 2016, they started getting better again. So like during the like early 2000s, they're not that great. But the art is great. If you get any of them from the 80s, 90s, and 70s, you're gonna get these like amazing, amazing artists that were around that back then. Some of them are still around, and they just did amazing, amazing work, and they put it into like heavy metal. This stuff is like, you can always get the back issues if you wanna read the older ones, or you can always get the new issue that's always coming out, which is in the comic book stores. I do recommend, however, because you never know like if you're gonna like these or not, is to just like only buy the issues that you can open and look inside, because sometimes you'll like go to a comic book store and they're sealed, which is, I can understand they're sealed because people want them to be in good condition, and once they're like damaged, people don't want to buy them because people like to collect them, so they only want the mint good condition comics. But the thing about it, when they're sealed, you can't like look inside and see if you like the art and whatever. Really cool. And it's not just like one story in these, there's always multiple different stories. So like if you like one, you might like one story and not like another story, but there's always like, there'll still be a story that you probably like in this. And as you can see, like art is amazing in this one. Like these have really good art. At their best, they had Mobius, and they had like Simon Beasley. They had really, really good artists in this one. And at their best, Louis Royo, Boris Vallejo, like at their best, they were really, really good. I mean, I've read some amazing, amazing stories in this that I had no idea I was going to read. I just bought the issue, read through it, and was just like blown away by like how good the art was, how good the stories were, how original they were, how like not comic-y they were. This is like, they're a little bit adult, and so I mean they call themselves adult here, that world's foremost adult illustrated fantasy magazine. And that's exactly what they are, but adult, like, you can read, they're basically for adult teenagers, because like you're gonna like this more as a teenager than you are gonna like it at any other age. They're a little bit adult for kids, but like when I started reading these, I was a teen and I just thought they were perfect for teens, and they're written for teens, so it's adult, but it's still like written for adult teens. So whoever likes the stuff that they liked when they were a teen, in their adult's life, then they'll like this because that's what they're written for, yeah, heavy metal. Really, really awesome. Definitely check these out. Just be careful. Not all of them are really that great, and you don't want to spend, this one was like $6.95, and right now they're like $9.95 or something like that. So you don't want to spend like $6, $8, and then buy something that only the cover is good and the rest of it isn't. My recommendation, open them up, look inside, check out the art, read a couple of pages, see if it resonates with you, and if it resonates with you, check it out. Definitely check out some of these, especially like if you can find like the best of. I think during the 70s, 80s, and 90s, almost all of them were the best of, and definitely in the 70s and 80s, it's really considered that almost all of them were the best of. Like they just didn't miss. They hit every single time they came out. They were really good. Also, like if you like certain artists, you can find out if those artists were in that issue of Heavy Metal, and then you can just buy that issue directly. And through Heavy Metal magazine, you can pretty much you can mail order through them any issue you want. So if there's an issue that you want, you can pretty much, I'm pretty sure, because they always send you emails. You can pretty much say, okay, I want issue, this is like March 2009, right? So I want issue March 2009, and they'll just send you this one, So yeah, so check out, like, Heavy Metal is amazing. It's really good. When they're good, they're really, really good, So that's pretty much it. There's a lot of other stuff. I recommend, like, definitely just go, like, check it out, take a look around. Like, you can spend hours just looking around a comic book store, opening up the stuff and whatever. I know it's mostly like superheroes, but there's a lot of good non-superhero stuff. Most of the people that go and buy comics are buying superhero comics, and they want to buy superhero comics, but comics is just a medium. It's just a way of writing and a way of drawing, and it doesn't have to be any subject. It can be whatever it wants. A story can be told no matter what, science fiction, fantasy, whatever it is, fiction, urban fantasy, whatever it is, can always be told. So I don't know why there's so many superheroes. I guess Marvel and DC got popular. People started buying their superhero comics and stuff, and then they started making like other graphic novels and comics about other things and stuff like that. So definitely check out the ones I've showed you. I don't know about Y: The Last Man. I just put that in there because a lot of people said they like it. So if you don't like it, it's fine. I liked it, but I didn't think it was like that great, but it was actually cool. It was actually a cool read. The ones I do recommend is John Constantine's Hellblazer and Neil Gaiman's Sandman series. So definitely check those two out if you haven't. And if you have also, if you go into a comic book store, also you can ask them, hey, what's a really good comic? And they'll probably ask you, well, what kind of subject matter do you like? And then if you tell, I like this thing, and they're like, oh yeah, then you might like this one. Usually they're pretty spot on about what to recommend, because there's like certain comics that just almost everyone likes, and you can't go wrong with that. It's like buying a bestseller. Yeah, so I hope you guys liked the video. I hope you got a lot out of it. Let me know in the comments, whatever it is. Like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in another video. Laters. Bye.